I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I would have rearranged his teeth into a crossword puzzle. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife, Ashley, had insisted. A serious talk. Over dinner, she said. I thought maybe she was finally ready to work on our marriage. Spoiler, she wasn't. When I walked into the restaurant, there she was, laughing too hard, hair curled like she was auditioning for a shampoo commercial, sitting next to a guy I'd never met but had heard way too much about. Chase Donovan, her colleague, the so-called mentor who just gets her. Yeah, I'd heard enough about him to fill a novel titled How to Ruin a Marriage in 3 Easy Steps. He was already seated, wearing a shirt 2 sizes too small, so everyone could appreciate his dedication to protein powder. He gave me the kind of smirk you only see in cologne ads. Logan, Ashley said sweetly, motioning to the chair across from them. This is Chase. You've heard me mention him. I forced a polite smile. Oh, I've heard. My fists, meanwhile, were already curling under the table like they had a mind of their own. Chase leaned in, locked eyes with me like we were in a bad Western. I'll make this simple, he said smoothly. You've got 2 options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Ashley didn't flinch. She actually smiled, like she'd been waiting for this scene all along. My ears started ringing. I repeated his words in my head. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. He thought I'd crawl out of there like some beaten dog while he took my wife for dessert. I smiled back, a calm, steady smile that probably unnerved him more than yelling would have. You want your teeth whole, I said softly. Or in pieces? Ashley's eyes widened for the first time that night. Chase leaned back, but before he could reply, I stood up. I didn't flip the table, didn't raise my voice. I just leaned close enough for him to smell the calm on my breath and whispered, "Careful what you wish for." Then I walked out. Not defeated, oh no, just done playing the part she wrote for me. When I got home that night, the house felt wrong. Not rearranged, not ransacked, just wrong. Like the air had changed. Her perfume lingered in the hallway, but underneath it was something else. A second scent. Masculine. Arrogant. And that's when I knew. This wasn't the beginning of her betrayal. It was the grand finale. And me? I wasn't about to be the closing act that I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Instead, I sat in the living room staring at the family photo on the mantel, the one where Ashley leaned into me like she couldn't imagine life anywhere else. Funny how a smile can age like milk once you know the truth behind it. Around 2 a.m., I went upstairs. The bed was perfectly made, tighter than any hotel housekeeping staff could manage. Ashley never made the bed like that. Not once in 10 years. I pulled the pillow back. That's when I saw it. A single dark hair. Too short, too coarse to be hers. And that smell again. Cologne. Not mine. The next morning, Ashley floated into the kitchen like nothing was wrong. She wore that smug little grin, the one she puts on when she thinks she's 10 steps ahead. "Morning, babe," she said casually, pouring herself coffee. "Morning," I replied, voice even. She eyed me for a beat, like she was waiting for an explosion that never came. Then, with the fakest innocence I've ever seen, she asked, "Rough night?" I smiled back. "Not at all. Slept like a baby." Her eyebrow twitched. Just for a second. She knew I was lying. But I wasn't about to play checkers while she played chess. No, I was already playing poker. And the thing about poker is, you don't let them see your hand until it's too late. Later that day, I called in sick to work. Spent hours in silence, just observing. Watched her texts light up her phone. Different smiles for each one. The kind of smiles she hadn't given me in months. By noon, I had what I needed, his name. Chase. Again. No shocker. But the frequency? The timing? Every hour like clockwork. That man wasn't just a colleague. He was a schedule. That evening, when she breezed back through the door with her, I was just at yoga. Excuse. No yoga mat in sight. I had my line ready. "Hey Ash," I said casually. "What kind of cologne does Chase wear?" Her face dropped. Just a flicker. Then she laughed, too quickly. "Why would you ask that?" I leaned back, sipped my drink, and smiled. "Because it lingers." Silence. The kind that doesn't need proof because the guilty fill it themselves. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally muttered, "You're imagining things." I just nodded, like I believed her. But she didn't know. I'd already set the trap. The beauty of betrayal is that it makes you sharper. I started noticing every detail. The way Ashley's phone never left her hand. How she always showered the second she came home. The new lingerie receipts tucked in her purse like confetti from a parade I wasn't invited to. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I played dumb. And the more oblivious I pretended to be, the bolder she got. One Friday evening, she claimed she had a late meeting. I kissed her on the cheek like the loyal husband she thought she still had, then waited until the garage door rumbled shut. 10 minutes later, I followed. Not in my truck. She'd spot that a mile away. No, I borrowed my neighbor's old sedan. Neutral gray. Forgettable. I tailed her carefully, 2 cars back, until she pulled into the glowing parking lot of the Crystal Globe, a bar she once told me was too loud and trashy. Funny, she sure didn't look bothered stepping inside with Chase on her arm. His hand rested low on her back, like it belonged there. My stomach twisted, but my face? Calm as a lake at dawn. I didn't storm in. I watched, observed, memorized. Every laugh, every touch, every stolen glance. They looked like a couple auditioning for a rom-com, except the husband wasn't supposed to be in the audience. My phone buzzed. It was my buddy, Kyle. He must have seen me sitting there because the text read, "You sure you're ready to see this?" I typed back, "Ready. Just get the pictures." He did. Close-ups, wide shots, proof, with no wiggle room. When Ashley finally stumbled out 2 hours later, she was glowing, not from wine, but from him. Chase leaned in, kissed her like she was his prize. She didn't even look around. Not once. I waited until her taillights disappeared down the road before I exhaled. Then I saved every photo to a private folder on my phone. When I got home, she was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. I slipped in quietly. She shifted, mumbling, "Meeting ran late." I smiled into the dark. Yeah, I figured. She had no idea I'd already won the first round. You ever notice how cheaters always underestimate the quiet ones? They mistake silence for stupidity. They think if you're not blowing up their phone or pacing the living room at 2 a.m., you must not know. What they don't realize is that silence isn't ignorance, it's strategy. For the next week, I played my role to perfection. I was the doting, predictable husband. Kissed her good morning. Complimented her dress. Even took her car in for an oil change like some devoted errand boy. Meanwhile, Kyle and I were building a case that would make even a divorce lawyer blush. Kyle, God bless him, had a knack for technology. He set me up with a discreet app that mirrored Ashley's phone to mine. Every text, every call, every notification live-streamed straight into my pocket. I didn't even have to guess anymore. By Tuesday, I had a greatest hits collection of betrayal. A text from Chase. "Last night was perfect. I can still taste you." Her reply. "Don't make me blush. I'm with him right now." A photo of her dinner plate at our table, captioned, "Boring family life." I almost laughed when I saw that one. Boring? Honey, you hadn't seen exciting yet. That night, I set my first trap. Ashley was brushing her hair at the vanity, humming some tune she probably picked up from Chase's playlist. I leaned against the doorway, casual. "You've been working late a lot lately," I said. She froze for just a second, quick enough that most husbands would have missed it. Then she turned, smile plastered on like fresh paint. "Yeah, you know how it is. New projects." I nodded slowly. "Sure. I was thinking of surprising you with dinner at that little Italian place you love. The one with the candlelight tables." Her eyes widened. "Oh, I can't this week. Too busy." "Busy," I echoed. "Right." She looked relieved when I didn't push it. But what she didn't know was that Kyle had already set up a GPS tracker on her car. I could tell you not only where she was at any given moment, but how long she stayed there and which entrance she used. Thursday rolled around. She kissed me goodbye at 6:15 p.m., said she'd be home late. By 6:45, she was parked outside Chase's apartment complex. By 7 o'clock, she was inside. And me? I was 3 blocks away, in Kyle's car, eating a cheeseburger and humming the same stupid tune she'd been humming the other night. I didn't go in. Not yet. Instead, I sent her a text. "Don't forget we've got that wine tasting Saturday night. Should I book the tickets?" It was my way of checking her pulse. 5 minutes later, she replied, "Yes, that sounds amazing. Can't wait, red heart." Amazing. She was lying in another man's bed and planning a date night with me. The audacity almost impressed me. Almost. Saturday came, and I put on my best suit. She wore a red dress I hadn't seen in years. For a second, she looked like the girl I married. But then she smiled at her phone, and the illusion shattered. At the wine tasting, I played the perfect gentleman. Poured her glass. Complimented her laugh. listened to her stories like they weren't rehearsed lies. And when the sommelier asked if we were celebrating something, I smiled and said, "New beginnings." Ashley squeezed my hand, clueless. "Yes," she agreed. "New beginnings." If only she knew. When we got home, she slipped off her heels and sighed. Tonight was nice. I kissed her forehead. It's just the start. That Monday, I set the second trap. I left work early and went home, but not inside. Instead, I parked down the street and waited. At 4:37, Chase's car rolled up. At 4:39, Ashley let him in. I gave them 20 minutes. Just enough rope. Then I called her. "Hey," I said lightly. "Just checking in. How's your day going?" Silence. Then the sound of her breath catching. "Oh, I'm fine. Busy, you know." "Yeah," I said. "Funny, I thought I heard the doorbell earlier." She stammered. "Oh, no, just the delivery guy." "Delivery?" I repeated. "Right. Well, don't forget we've got dinner with my parents Friday." "Of course," she said quickly. "Wouldn't miss it." I hung up, smiling. The delivery guy, huh? Hope he left a big tip. That Friday dinner with my parents was the third trap. And the best one yet. Ashley walked in wearing pearls, acting every bit the devoted wife. She laughed at my dad's jokes, complimented my mom's roast, and squeezed my knee under the table like nothing in the world was wrong. Halfway through dessert, I pulled out my phone. "Hey, Mom, check out this funny picture Kyle sent me." Ashley froze. She knew. Somehow, she knew before the screen even lit up. I tilted the phone just enough for her to see. A photo of her and Chase, hand in hand outside his apartment, timestamped Tuesday at 7:12 p.m. My parents didn't notice a thing, but Ashley did. Her fork clattered onto the plate. She excused herself to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, she came back with a smile so forced it could have cracked glass. "Everything okay, hon?" I asked sweetly. She nodded, eyes darting everywhere but mine. The rest of the evening, she was quiet. My parents thought she wasn't feeling well. I knew she was replaying every move, every excuse, every lie. That night, when we got home, she finally snapped. "Logan, what the hell was that?" she hissed. I raised an eyebrow. What was what? You know what? I leaned back on the couch, arms spread. "Ashley, if there's something you want to tell me, now's the time." Her lips trembled. For a moment, I thought she'd confess. But then she folded her arms, lifted her chin, and said, "You're imagining things." I smiled. Not the loving kind. The kind that says, "Keep digging, you'll hit the bottom soon." "Maybe you're right," I said softly. "Maybe I am." But in my head, I was already planning the finale. Because the thing about traps? They don't just catch the guilty. They make them show themselves. And Ashley was about to step right into the last one. By the time Saturday rolled around, I had more evidence than the FBI. Photos, texts, GPS logs, even a voice recording of Ashley giggling into her phone while telling Chase she wished Logan wasn't so boring. Boring. That word stuck. Funny how boring kept the lights on. Boring paid for her spa trips, her new car, that red dress she wore to Chase's apartment. Boring built the very house she brought him into. But I didn't argue with the label. If she wanted boring, fine. I'd let her believe that until it was too late to stop what was coming. Step 1. Preparation. I spent the next week setting up the chessboard. First, the finances. Ashley never paid attention to bills. She liked swiping cards, not reading statements. So she didn't notice when I quietly moved half our joint savings into an account under my name only. Legal. Clean. Impossible for her to undo once the hammer dropped. Second, the house. She thought it was ours, but what she didn't realize was that when we refinanced last year, I had filed the deed under my name alone. I told her it was just paperwork. She never questioned it. Why would she? She trusted Boring. Third, the allies. I called Kyle. "You sure about this, man?" he asked after I explained the plan. "Positive," I said. "She's been 2 steps ahead this whole time. Time to remind her whose game she's playing." Kyle whistled. "You've got ice in your veins." I smiled. "Not ice. Clarity." Step 2. The bait. Wednesday morning, over coffee, I looked across the table at Ashley. She was scrolling her phone, probably waiting for a good morning text from Chase. "I was thinking," I said casually, "we should host a little dinner party. Just a few friends. Been a while since we entertained." She looked up, startled. Then she smiled too quickly. "That's a great idea." Of course it was. She thought I was trying to patch things up. What she didn't know was that I'd already picked the guest list. Kyle, 2 of my closest colleagues, and Chase. Yes, I invited him. I did it through Ashley, of course. She couldn't say no without raising suspicion. That evening, I overheard her on the phone in the laundry room. He invited you, she whispered, laughing nervously. Yeah, I know, right? Don't worry. I'll handle it. Perfect. Step 3. The night. The dinner party landed on a Friday. I grilled steaks, opened expensive wine, played the gracious host while Ashley floated around in a silk dress, her smile bright enough to hide the panic simmering underneath. Chase arrived late. Of course he did. He wore the same smug grin he'd had at that restaurant, the one that made me want to rearrange his jawline. He shook my hand like we were old friends. Logan, he said smoothly. Thanks for having me. My pleasure, I replied, squeezing his hand just enough to let him know I could snap it if I wanted to. Dinner was cordial. Too cordial. Ashley laughed too loudly at Chase's jokes, poured him too much wine, kept her eyes anywhere but on me. I just kept smiling, letting the room breathe. After dessert, I stood, tapped my glass. Before we wrap up, I said, I'd like to share a little slideshow. Just some highlights from the past year. Ashley's smile froze. Chase shifted uncomfortably. The lights dimmed. My laptop screen flickered onto the TV. At first, it was innocent. Vacation photos, family gatherings, Ashley at her birthday. Everyone relaxed. Then came the other photos. Ashley and Chase, hand in hand outside the Crystal Globe, kissing in the parking lot. Her text, don't make me blush, I'm with him right now. His reply, I'll make you blush later. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Ashley gasped. Logan, what is this? I turned, calm as ever. Evidence. Chase stammered. This is out of context. I cut him off. Oh, don't sell yourself short, Chase. The context is crystal clear. Kyle sat back in his chair, smirking. My colleagues exchanged awkward glances. Ashley's face drained of color, her mouth opening and closing like a fish on dry land. I leaned forward. You know, Ash, I used to think the worst thing you could do was break a vow. Turns out, it's breaking a man's trust while still pretending to love him. She whispered, Logan, please. I stood tall. Don't. You had your chance to talk. You chose to lie. So now, you get silence. Step 4, the twist. You'd think that was the climax. But it wasn't. That was just the intermission. The next morning, Ashley tried to spin it. She followed me around the house, mascara running, begging for another chance. It was a mistake, she cried. We can work through this. I didn't yell, didn't cry, just handed her an envelope. What's this? She asked. Your new life? I said. Inside were 3 things. A copy of the deed showing her name missing. Bank statements proving she had no access to the savings anymore. A prepaid hotel reservation. 2 weeks. Non-refundable. She stared at the papers, stunned. You planned this? For weeks, I said calmly. While you were busy with Chase, I was busy making sure you had nothing left to take from me. Her lip trembled. You can't just kick me out. Oh, I can, I said. And I did. That suitcase by the door? Already packed. Clothes, toiletries, your favorite perfume. Consider it a parting gift. She choked back a sob. You're heartless. I smiled faintly. No, I'm awake. Step 5, the checkmate. The final blow came Monday morning. Ashley was at her hotel, probably plotting her next move. Meanwhile, I had a meeting with HR at her company. Remember all those texts and photos? Turns out her workplace had a very strict policy on office relationships, especially with subordinates. By Wednesday, Chase was unemployed. Ashley, alone. She called me that night, voice breaking. Logan, please. I have nowhere to go. I let the silence hang before answering. Funny, that's how it feels to be married to someone who's already gone. Then I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I didn't lose control. I let her dig her own grave. And when she was done, I simply handed her the shovel. Because sometimes, the cruelest revenge isn't fire or fury. It's calm. It's silence. It's walking away while they realize, too late, that you were always one step ahead. The thing about people like Ashley? They don't know how to lose gracefully. She wasn't the type to accept defeat with a quiet sigh and a tearful apology. No, she was the type to flip the board when she realized she couldn't win the game. And sure enough, 2 days after I cut her off, she came storming back into the house like she still owned the place. I was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking my coffee, when I heard the familiar clack of her heels on the hardwood. She tossed her hotel keycard onto the counter with a smirk. You really think you can just kick me out? She snapped. I took a slow sip. Worked pretty well, actually. Her eyes narrowed. This is my home, too. Correction, I said calmly, sliding a folder across the table. Take a look. She flipped it open. Deed in my name. Mortgage in my name. Her name, missing in action. The smirk faltered. You forged this. I almost laughed. Ashley, you signed the refinance papers yourself. You were too busy texting Chase to notice what you were signing. She slammed the folder shut. You think you're clever. No, I said evenly. I think I'm careful. Her first counterattack. 2 days later, I got a call from a lawyer. Ashley was filing for spousal support. Apparently, she believed that after cheating, lying, and humiliating me, she still deserved half my income. The lawyer spoke carefully, like he'd had this conversation with blindsided husbands before. She's claiming you blindsided her financially. I chuckled. That's rich. Do you want to contest it? He asked. Not just contest, I said. I want her case to collapse in the first 5 minutes. See, I'd been prepared for this. Every transaction, every bank transfer, every bit of evidence proving she had more than enough notice, all neatly compiled. I emailed the package to my lawyer before the ink on her petition was dry. A week later, the case was dismissed. When Ashley got the news, she called me, furious. You set me up. No, I replied smoothly. You set yourself up. I just collected the receipts. Click. End of call. The second wave. But Ashley wasn't done. A week later, she tried a new tactic, pity. I came home from work to find her sitting on the front steps in the rain, mascara streaked, suitcase at her feet. She looked like an abandoned puppy from one of those sad commercials. Logan, she whispered, standing as I approached, please. I made a mistake. I studied her for a long moment. The rain plastered her hair to her face, made her look more fragile than she'd ever allow herself to be. It almost worked. Almost. Get in, I said finally, opening the door. She gasped. You mean it? She stepped inside, dripping water on the rug. I handed her a towel. She smiled faintly, like she'd just won a battle. Then I pointed to the living room table. On it was a neat stack of papers. Divorce papers. Her smile died. What's this? Closure, I said simply. She picked them up, scanning the bold letters. You're serious? As a heart attack. Her voice cracked. Logan, I don't have anywhere else to go. Not my problem, I said, taking back the towel. But good luck finding a guy willing to sign a lease with you now that your affair made the rounds. She flinched. I hadn't told her yet, had I? That Chase had been fired. That word had spread faster than wildfire in their little circle. That she wasn't just without me. She was without him, too. The fallout. It didn't take long. Within a week, her social media went dark. Friends who used to gush over her Instagram stories suddenly stopped commenting. Chase had ghosted her completely, deleted her number, blocked her account, vanished like the coward he was. Kyle texted me a screenshot one evening. A local gossip group had started whispering about Ashley and her office fling. Turns out, people aren't as discreet as they think when they've been caught in HD on a 60-inch flat screen. When Ashley called again, her voice was hoarse. They all know, Logan. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I stayed silent for a beat, then asked, Do you have any idea what you did to me? She cried softly on the other end. I didn't comfort her. Not my job anymore. The final push. The next move came from her family. Her mother showed up at my door, purse clutched tight, wearing a frown sharp enough to cut glass. I raised her better than this, she said without so much as a hello. Apparently not, I replied, leaning on the doorframe. She sighed. Logan, she's made a mistake. A big one. But surely, after all these years. Stop, I cut in. You're here to clean up her mess. I get it. But she didn't trip and fall into another man's bed. She walked there. Repeatedly. Her mother's face reddened. You're cruel. No, I said, calm as ever. I'm done. She left in a huff. Ashley texted me an hour later. Thanks for humiliating me in front of my own mother. I didn't reply. The quiet victory. One night, weeks later, I sat in the same kitchen chair where this all began, sipping coffee and staring out the window. The house was quiet, peaceful, no fake smiles, no lies. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just gotten rid of Ashley. I'd gotten rid of the version of myself that tolerated her. The next morning, I dropped the signed divorce papers at my lawyer's office. The receptionist smiled politely as she slid them into a folder. You okay? She asked. I smiled back. Better than okay. Walking out into the sun, I felt lighter than I had in years. Ashley tried a few more desperate moves, a tearful voicemail, a long rambling email about remembering the good times, even a handwritten letter tucked into my mailbox. I read none of it, because the truth is, she wasn't asking for me back. She was asking for the safety net she destroyed. And I don't rebuild nets for people who set them on fire. I'll tell you this much, she never saw it coming. Not the financial cutoff, not the public exposure, not the silence that followed. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice. Not once. Sometimes, revenge isn't loud. It's precise, clean, surgical. And Ashley? She was already bleeding from 1,000 little cuts before she even realized I held the knife. By the time the divorce papers were filed, Ashley had burned through every tactic in her arsenal. Tears, threats, pity, even her mother's lectures. None of it worked. She was cornered, and she knew it. So she tried the oldest trick in the book, guilt. One evening, I came home to find her waiting in the driveway. No mascara this time. No silk dress. Just jeans, a hoodie, and a folder in her hands. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she said softly. "After everything we've been through." I raised an eyebrow. "Everything I went through, you mean?" She looked down at the folder, then back up at me. "You know, I could still ruin you. I could tell the court you were controlling, that you manipulated me, that you—" "Stop," I said firmly. "You think anyone's going to buy that after the slideshow? After the GPS logs? After your text messages calling me boring family life? You're out of moves, Ash. Admit it." Her eyes welled up. "You used to love me." I stepped closer, close enough for her to see the calm in my eyes. "I still do. But now I love me more." I walked past her and into the house. She didn't follow. That was the last time she tried guilt. A month later, just when I thought the storm had passed, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said, "Pick up." "Logan." The voice was shaky. It was Chase. Well, I said dryly. "Didn't expect to hear from you. Lose another job already." "Listen," he said quickly. "I need to tell you something. About Ashley." I smirked. "What?" "That she's a liar." "Already got the memo." "No," he said. "She's been different. She's saying you ruined her life. That she's going to make you pay. She's been following me, Logan. I think she's unhinged." For a moment, I was silent. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. Ashley had always been the kind of person who'd rather burn the house down than admit she lost the keys. "Thanks for the warning," I said finally. "But Chase, you're on your own now. Should have thought about that before you signed up for this circus." I hung up. I knew she'd try something dramatic. So I set the stage myself. Friday evening, I texted her. "Let's talk." 7 p.m. At the house. She showed up right on time. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. Like she was stepping into a negotiation rather than an ending. "You changed your mind," she said, smiling faintly. I gestured to the kitchen table. On it was a neat envelope. She sat down, opened it, and froze. Inside was a check. A big one. Enough to cover 6 months of rent, food, and whatever else she needed. Her eyes filled with tears. "You're giving me this?" I nodded. "Yes, but there's a condition." She sniffed. "Anything. You disappear. No calls, no visits, no showing up in the driveway. You sign the final papers, and you walk away clean." She stared at me, stunned. "Why would you after everything?" I leaned forward, voice calm. "Because I don't want you anymore. Not your apologies, not your explanations, not your drama. Just your absence." For a moment, I thought she might argue. But then she reached for a pen. She signed. A week later, the divorce was finalized. Ashley moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. The check cleared. She went quiet. I thought that was the end. Until Kyle called me one Saturday morning. "Turn on channel 6, he said. "Now." I did. And there she was. Ashley, standing outside a courthouse, microphones shoved in her face. Her voice was steady, her makeup flawless. She was claiming she had been the victim of emotional abuse. That I had manipulated her, isolated her, destroyed her finances. She looked straight into the camera and said, "He ruined me." I laughed. Out loud. Because the camera didn't just catch her speech. It caught the man standing behind her. "Chase." My phone buzzed. "Kyle again." "Check your email," he said. I did. And there it was, a video. Taken just yesterday. Ashley and Chase in a parking garage. Arguing. Him shoving her phone back at her, saying, "I'm done being your cover story." Turns out, Chase had decided he didn't want to go down with her. He'd leaked the video to Kyle, who leaked it to the news. By that evening, Ashley's story had collapsed. Her face was everywhere, not as a victim, as a liar. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of whiskey, watching the sun go down. My phone buzzed again, a text from Ashley. "You win. I have nothing left." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, "No, Ashley. You lost." I just stopped playing. And I never heard from her again.